easily the best Teletubbies movie in 28 years. What's going on, my friends? Welcome again to the Cobweb channel. My name is Daniel, and today we're doing something we haven't done in a long time, a dedicated review for a brand new horror film. I just went to see 28 Years Later last night, the long-awaited follow-up to 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later, and it's been 18 years since there was an entry in this franchise, so long-awaited is certainly right. But before we talk about this new film, let's quickly go over my history with this franchise. Now, 28 Days Later is a movie that I absolutely love. I didn't always love it quite as much as I do now, simply because I was held back by the really dated early version of digital photography that it's filmed in. So it certainly looks very rough, but I don't know, the last time that I watched it leading up to 28 Years Later, that problem just kind of fell away, and I just thought it was a great example of an apocalypse movie. The infected are absolutely terrifying. There's a lot of intense sequences, but more than anything else, it is the characters and the cast in that film that I absolutely adore. Cillian Murphy, Naomi Harris, Brendan Gleeson, everyone in that movie is incredible. And I just absolutely love it. 28 Weeks Later, I actually watched for the first time leading up to this movie. I just never bothered with it before. And I thought it was okay. I thought it was a very generic 2000 zombie movie, which is already something that I'm not the biggest fan of. The cast here was okay, with Jeremy Renner and Rose Byrne before they really hit it big, but none of the characters popped for me at all, and it just felt basic and ho-hum. But I was very excited for 28 Years Later. I mean, this one has the re-teaming of Danny Boyle as director and Alex Garland as writer, who worked on the first film but did not officially work on the sequel. And I just love an apocalypse movie that takes place years deeper into the apocalypse, when the world is more settled in ruin. I just think that is a really interesting and atmospheric vibe for a movie. So this film had my attention.
There were so many dead. Infected and non-infected alike.
28 years since the rage virus started, Great Britain is in a ruthlessly enforced quarantine. But some have found ways to exist amidst the infected. One such group lives on a small island connected to the mainland by a single heavily defended causeway. And when two members depart on a mission into the dark heart of the mainland, they discover secrets, wonders, and horrors. Yes, this is directed by Danny Boyle, written by Alex Garland. It's starring Jodie Comer, Aaron Taylor Johnson, and Alfie Williams, and is produced by Cillian Murphy. And I will just say, it has been officially confirmed that Cillian Murphy is not in this movie, so that's not necessarily a spoiler. However, it's also officially confirmed that he's going to be in the sequel that is already in development. Very exciting. So let's talk about what I liked about this film. Now, first of all, that apocalypse atmosphere that I already talked about is fantastic. This is an excellent example of a zombie apocalypse movie. And I just want to address that real quick, because the horror community has got this thing going on where people get very defensive, shall I say, offended when anybody refers to the infected in the 28 Days Later franchise as zombies. Yes, they are not zombies in the traditional sense because they are not undead. They can be killed just like any other person. They can starve. They're not corpses that are just wandering around. However, I will say what a traditional zombie is has changed in the fairly recent past. There was a time when a traditional zombie was only something created by voodoo. That has been completely changed as of now, most importantly by George Romero. And I would say the infected are another variation of what a zombie is. And even if you want to deny that, clearly these movies, all three of them, are specifically designed to be a part of the zombie apocalypse genre. Like, everything about them perfectly fits in the zombie apocalypse genre. I don't see how you can deny that. And 28 Years Later is so obviously a zombie apocalypse movie, and this is the first film in the franchise in which a character does refer to the infected as zombies. So I don't know what to tell you. Straight from Alex Garland's pen, there it is. It is very interesting that here the whole planet is not in the end of the world, but the British Isles have been fully sealed off. So there, people are living like it's the Middle Ages. And that's something that I loved about the vibe and the aesthetic of this film, It really feels like humanity has gone back to the Dark Ages. It feels like a King Arthur type of atmosphere, but for the peasants. In fact, this movie is very stylistically edited, and there are a lot of scenes from like old King Arthur movies and such that are just kind of edited in. So Danny Boyle's certainly not hiding. He's going for that aesthetic. But characters don't really have guns anymore, so they're going around with bows and arrows. This village that the movie is about really just looks like a Dark Ages village, and it's really, really cool aesthetically. I love to see an apocalypse movie where you just see the remnants of society still around. There's like a gas station over here that's been overgrown by vegetation. There's a building over here that's mostly crumbled, but maybe you can go hide in it. That's the kind of place that I would just love to wander around. Those abandoned, overgrown places that nature has fully taken over. It's creepy, but there's also just something like relaxing about it. You're just walking around in the graveyard of what used to be, and now it's just you. And the infected, of course, that's not relaxing. It looks absolutely beautiful, much like 28 Days Later was using early digital technology. This one was primarily shot on an iPhone 15 Max. Like I said, it's very stylistically edited. And as an apocalypse movie, I thought it was interesting that this one has much less emphasis on evil people in the world. Usually when you watch an apocalypse movie and a zombie apocalypse movie, the zombies are a threat, but they're not the main threat. It's the people that are left, and what will they do to you? That's the whole third act of 28 Days Later, obviously. This one, much less going for that. It's a little bit more focused on the infected and actual positive relationships between people. I thought the cast here was excellent. The film primarily centers around a family, and the true star is the 12-year-old son, Spike, who is played by newcomer Alfie Williams. He was excellent. The most important relationship at the beginning of the movie is between him and his dad, played by Aaron Taylor Johnson. And I loved Aaron Taylor Johnson in this movie, and that's saying something for me to say that. I've always thought Aaron Taylor Johnson kind of stuck around in Hollywood way longer than he should have, and I kept getting confused why he was getting so many roles because he just never really impressed me much.
You didn't see that coming?
But I guess it's good that he's stuck around way longer than I thought he should have, because he's really grown into a great actor. He was fantastic in Nosferatu. He is great here. And the relationship between him and the son, it's a very interesting study on masculinity, I thought, in a very good way, because they both represent very different forms of masculinity, and that kind of divides them a bit. But both are reasonable and understandable types of it, especially in this world that they're in, where the dad is very much pushing his son to be tougher, to be more of a man. But this is a really hard world that he's raising his son in, and he's trying to make him tough enough to be able to handle it. There's also a definite moral issue that divides them, in which the dad is certainly wrong. It's just complex, you know? These are not very simple characters with simple conflicts and moral divides. There's a lot going on under the surface and a lot you can really sink your teeth into, and I thought that was just really beautiful. The mother is played by Jodie Comer, who is great here as well, and ends up being a very important part of the movie, including her health and showing that there are more diseases in the world than just the infection. There is more to worry about. But man, I thought the standout character was played by Ralph Fiennes. Ralph Fiennes, phenomenal actor, so excellent here. He was a character that I just kept wanting more from. I would have welcomed a 10-minute monologue in this movie where he just talks about who he is, his history, his philosophy more than anything else. I would have just loved to have learned more and more about him, and maybe we will learn more in the sequel, but what we got just entranced me. I thought he was such a fascinating character. Another thing that I loved is this movie is intense, and intensity is one of my favorite things that a movie can do, especially a horror movie. I love that more than disturbing or gross out stuff. That stuff can be good too, but tension, I feel like, is the hardest to pull off, and I love it when a movie can do it. And this film has several sequences that are some of the most brutally intense stuff I've seen in a theater in a while. 28 Days Later has got maybe 2 sequences that are brutally intense, and I would say this one has more. And it goes for that far more than it goes for gore. I actually, before clicking record on this video, took a peek over at Rotten Tomatoes, just kind of seeing what people are saying, and I immediately saw a user review from not a critic, just a regular person, who was like, this movie is terrible because these zombies aren't even tearing people apart and eating them them that much. I would say, yes, they are tearing people apart some, but yeah, there's not a whole lot of that. It's not really a super gory movie, at least not by modern standards of horror movies today. It's a far more intense movie, and I love that. That's more difficult to do, and Danny Boyle pulled it off brilliantly. But when the gore is there, it really does hit. The infected are absolutely terrifying. This movie does broaden the lore of them, and you get to learn more things because it's been so many years that this apocalypse has been going on. You get infected that have been that way for a very long time, and they have changed, and they're really, really disgusting looking. And aesthetically, this movie looks even more like a zombie movie than even the previous two did, because the infected have become so disgusting. What else can I say? It just these people that are living like feral animals. But also the film guides you towards learning more about how they are still connected to our species even so. Really interesting stuff. And even more than an intense movie, it's a coming of age drama. That is it more than anything else. Alex Garland stated his biggest influence on the script was a film called Kes. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, K-E-S. I've never seen the movie, but from looking into it, it just seems to be a coming-of-age drama. And that's what this movie is. It is about a 12-year-old boy learning how to be a man, what kind of man he wants to be, trying to support his family, trying to do right by them, but also coming to terms with the fact that his family isn't perfect. And that's something that every kid has to go through. You see your parents as kings and queens. They are the greatest. They're the ones that are protecting you, supporting you, and then you find out they're human. And that's also very much what this film dives into. In many ways, it's a quiet, contemplative movie about a young boy's journey into manhood that just happens to take place in a very intense, very dangerous, brutal, and yes, at times gory world. I love almost everything about 28 Years Later, except for a couple of things. Number one, there is a certain point where Aaron Taylor Johnson starts to be in the movie much, much less, and I don't really understand why. And I don't really buy that he's not there. Like, this guy, this dad, he would be there, you know? Like, that stretched my disbelief a little bit. And the other thing that really stretched my disbelief is there's a baby in this movie, and much like with A Quiet Place, where there's also a baby, that baby does not cry enough. Look, I had a baby within the past couple of years, and babies cry. And if they're in the kind of situations that this baby is in, babies are gonna cry. And I thought it was just ridiculous how quiet and well-behaved this baby was. You know, I understand that having a crying baby in a movie is not a great thing, but if you're gonna have a baby in a movie, I think that is a problem. That's a source of conflict, of danger that you have to address. And this movie kind of doesn't really address it. So that's where my disbelief got stretched. And then the ending is weird. Like, the movie seems to come to a perfect ending spot, and it goes on just a little bit longer, and it's very weird. Very, very weird. I assume it's just setting up for the sequel, because this is supposed to be the first in a trilogy. But we didn't need that. We can get a sequel. We don't necessarily need a weird little tag to set it up. But I thought 28 Years Later was a brilliant example of a zombie or infected apocalypse movie, and it might even be my favorite movie of the year. Before I go, I just want to give a huge thank you to my patrons who truly make this channel possible and allow me to spend as much time on it as I do. And I want to give a special shout out to Megan McFadden, Alan Kolchak 73, and Samuel Lopez. You guys are the best, and if anyone else wants to support me, there's always a link to my Patreon in the description below. But what do you think of 28 Years Later, or are you even interested in seeing it? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you want to hang out with me more, you can click on this video right over here for me ranking the first 10 new horror movies of this year that I happen to see, or this playlist of the other reviews for new horror films that I've done from 2025. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to enjoy yourselves today, have some fun, and I'll see you next time.